went to the Naval Academy for my undergrad time. Before that, I went to College Park, but I think I really enjoyed my experience at Annapolis and was very thoroughly indoctrinated into military way of life. Very different coming to Hopkins. The curriculum itself is set up where there's a lot of leeway to do things that you want to do, so I think I wasn't really used to that. So it's been interesting. Prior to going to the academy, I had no idea what the military was like. I don't come from this, like, people ask me, like, oh, you know, was your dad and, you know, was your grandfather? I was like, no, I'm the first kid to do anything like this. You can enter the medical corps either by going to the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences, USIS, which is located in Bethesda, or you can go through the HPSP scholarship program and attend a civilian institution. While you're an HPSP student, you get a stipend, which is actually, I mean, it's pretty generous considering you are not at the same time amassing debt. So there were two really strong advocates for the medical corps in general, and they weren't really specific to USIS or to HPSP, but they facilitated the application process to both. We were able to meet commanders or lieutenant commanders or captains, people who had really done their time and gone through the whole painful process of getting into medical school. They actually advocated the HPSP program a lot because when you go to a civilian institution, you get to learn different things and bring back, hopefully, what you've learned and how you've grown into the Navy, and thereby enrich the entire organization. With the HPSP program, for most of the year, you're just a civilian and you're doing your med school thing. But for 45 days out of the year, you're required to do active duty time. And the thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, like you get on a ship and you're like running around on the deck. My first year of med school, I actually spent the time at Hopkins doing a community research sort of outreach program with the psychiatry department there. And then my second year, I actually asked for, I think they call it it's not a waiver, but it has basically the same connotation where I asked for time off to study for my board exam. And then in my third and fourth year was when I actually did clinical rotations at naval hospitals. So yeah, there's a requirement that you do 45 days of active duty every year, but they're very flexible, I think, with how you spend that. The 2 months that I did do like truly active duty wearing my uniform, the first month I went to Bethesda and I did a month in the adolescent medicine department. And then my second month, I went down to Portsmouth Naval Hospital. If you're going through the HPSP program, it's expected, or through USIS, it's expected that you will do a Navy residency, because the Navy needs residents as well. But for those people who are doing something maybe a little unusual, or maybe something that perhaps the training might be better outside of the Navy, then they'll offer a deferment for you to go. So there are ways, I think, to do pretty much anything in medicine through the Navy. The thing that I think is interesting is when people think of the military, they think like you got your M16 strapped on and you're like in the desert with your like night vision goggles, you know, like. And the thing that I've been trying to tell people is that the military is like any other organization where, you know, you have people who are the CEOs, you have people who are the accountants, you have people who are the IT. Like, if you work for, you know, IBM, it doesn't mean that you're a programmer. You know what I'm saying? So the military needs physicians, and physicians basically do the same thing no matter what organization you're a part of. So, you know, at Portsmouth, everyone was in the military, but they were doing basically the same thing that physicians at Johns Hopkins do, which is see patients or do research. I know that the military and the Navy in particular does a lot of humanitarian missions. Both clinical rotations that I was on, there was frequent letters that were read from pediatricians who were on those missions, or frequent updates from how they were doing, or people who are coming back from those humanitarian missions. So that is a strong part of Navy medicine. You know, I see pictures of like the USS Comfort or the USS Mercy, and something in my heart is just like really stirred, because the Navy isn't just about going, and I think people think like, oh, Navy or military, it's about killing people. I just feel like I think the biggest thing about a military force is you have a strong peacekeeping force. One thing that I do appreciate about the military is that everyone has health insurance. Like everyone gets treated the same, and there's no craziness with, well, what kind of insurance does this person have? Can we give them this medicine or that medicine? I think that's the saddest part that I've seen at Hopkins. Yeah, there's like a lot of problems with our health system, and I think I am going to be very protected in the Navy from seeing a lot of the things that other people are going to have to see. Obviously, I think that's going to be an advantage because it's going to be like easier for me, and I'll just get to practice medicine for medicine's sake in a lot of ways. I have met friends who did not go to the academy, but they went through medical school through the HPSP program, and I don't think the physical aspect was anything that really like discouraged them or made them feel so intimidated about joining the Navy afterwards. People who are going to medical school are of a mindset that's very disciplined and hardworking, and if they set their minds to it, they'll accomplish it. So I never thought that it was something that was beyond anyone's reach, especially not someone who was going into medicine. When you become an officer in the military, there's definitely, I hesitate to say minimum, just because as a leader, I don't think you should ever have that mindset that you're going to do the minimum in anything. When you're in the fleet, you're going to be leading men and women who are going to be looking up to you to excel in everything, not just organizational skills, but even being able to run a mile and a half, even though it may seem very periphery and not directly related to what you may be doing in like communications or intel. It still, I think, affects the way a person looks at you and the way a person can respect you. I think because you're always going to be asking the men and women who are following you, or the men and women whom you are leading, you're always going to be asking them to give their best. And so I think it only makes sense as a leader that you also would do the same. I think that's what I really appreciate about the Navy, that it isn't so much, I think people are always impressed, like, oh, it must be so physically challenging, or, different things that people focus on. But I think the thing that I've been really grateful for is the leadership development, and just the values that they've instilled in me about having integrity. You can influence people in everything that you do, and you can make a positive impact on everything that you do. I think wearing the uniform makes people feel like there's a common bond, and like older gentlemen especially, who in Asian culture it's very like segregated or just very respectful. There are a lot of boundaries, but I would wear my uniform and like all those boundaries would like disappear. They would there was still a level of respect, of course, but they would talk to me, which I don't think would happen otherwise. And for me personally, every time I wear the uniform, it's just I feel like I'm part of something that's much bigger than me. So I've just been very, very thankful for the experiences I've had in the Navy, and the family that I can call my own because I wear the uniform. My name is Mia Jin, and I am a student at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. And I am in the Navy's HPSP program, and it's more than a uniform. For more information, please go to www.itsmorethanuniform.com.